Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
Here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that St. Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Thursday, February 29th, 2024. Welcome back, folks. It's Chris Wyatt Reports live from central Pennsylvania. No, it's not Saturday Night Live. You know, actually, they do have some funny things on there. I watched a bunch of the old Will Ferrell Saturday Night Live Jeopardy things the past few days. They're just so funny. You got the actor playing Sean Connery. Sean Connery, I'll take horror ads for $200, Alex. Horror ads. It's Who Reads, not horror ads. Anyway, funny stuff there. And they did the Burt Reynolds, all that stuff. Yeah, no, keep me entertained while I'm waiting for things the past few days. Been busy time as always. Yesterday was incredibly busy. Didn't finish everything until about 9:30 last night. Crazy, crazy, crazy day. Got everything in, but did fall a little bit behind on one event, which was my radio appearance. I was about 20 minutes late for the second hour last night. Anyway, folks, welcome back to the program. It's special time today because in the next hour, we will have Phil Craig, leader of the referendum party in South Africa, be talking to us about Cape Secession, the referendum party standing up for the elections in 2024, and we'll see what happens. That's coming up in the next hour. So I scheduled that previously. So there is a lot of news to talk about. I did want to get to it. Also, let you know that I've told those of you who know that I'm running for office here in Pennsylvania about my campaign. I revealed that about a week or two ago, and there's the 92nd district. This was the palm card, as we call them, that you hand out to potential voters, and people are like, whoa, there's no beard there. Well, look at the backside. There's the beard. Anyway, so I handed that card out, talked a little bit about me, but I've had new cards made, and these are 3x9 cards. So by comparison, they're much longer. You can see the length difference there between these two cards, but narrower. And what I've had put on here, of course, is, you can see it right there, leader, combat veteran, educator, and some of the other things I had put in this card, just share with you very quickly here, is battle-tested servant leader with incredible record of success at all levels across America and the globe. Tackling the issues that matter, inflation, school choice, fuel and inheritance taxes, medical freedom, protecting natural rights. At the bottom, defending liberty, restoring the Constitution, limiting government, fiscal responsibility, accountability, putting citizens first, and serving the people. And on the back, just a small list of some things that I've been able to accomplish in my professional life. 37-year U.S. Army combat veteran, chief of staff of a $3 billion program at the National Security Agency, led a $254 million rebuilding of the post-conflict armed force of Liberia. Author of 9 presidential daily briefs for the President of the United States, authored 1,200 strategic intelligence products at the Defense Intelligence Agency, 30-year intelligence analyst, judge of elections, Army counterintelligence agent, investigated espionage against the United States, developed HIV/AIDS programs across Africa, taught undergraduates at Iowa State University, taught postgrads in national security, strategy and policy, macroeconomics, African studies at U.S. Army War College, published author at Stellenbosch University and U.S. Army War College, radio broadcaster, independent journalist, energy industry analyst, dairy farmer in rural Appalachia, polyglot, speaks 6 languages, served in Germany, Italy, Tunisia, Liberia, Botswana, Malawi, Nigeria, Mauritania, Uganda, and Ethiopia. Gulf War, Bosnia, Kosovo campaign veteran, rose from private to sergeant to colonel. Anyway, that's my new card that I'm handing out to potential voters, hoping to convince people to come to my standard and vote for me. So I hope you like that card. I don't want your thoughts on it, but we'll see what happens. The key is getting in front of people. Last night was the launch for the candidate who's running for the Senate seat that's being vacated, the current occupant of this seat for the House of Representatives. Dawn Kiefer went to her launch last night. Big crowd there. It was really nice to see. It's pretty cool. A lot of support from people in the legislature who showed up. Members of the House and Senate were there who support her. It was pretty refreshing to see. She's very popular with most folks. But you can't please everybody. When I was doing the petition period, getting signatures throughout the district, I found people that didn't like her who signed my petition. It doesn't mean they like me. It just means they signed my petition. But anyway, so that's what's on tap. So let's say hello to everybody in the chat. We'll get to the news. We've got, first off, Charles Van Onson's here. Mike is in from Pennsylvania. Charles, Matt Canale's in from Indiana. Then we've got Dylan Combrick. Welcome, Dylan. Erica, Hester Kotze. Load shedding is coming. Dan Hook, Pip Jacobs. That darn Kita. Is that Kita or Kite? Welcome there. Who else we got here? Monray Sieberts is in. That beard. Which one? The longer one I had before I trimmed it up. Erica's here. John Hoochin in from Arizona. Sorry, I got a little twitch in my throat here. And Garrett is in from Somerset West. Sue Walsh, welcome back, Sue. Ulrich Fenta, welcome to you. And who have I missed here? Please forward the updated palm card. We'll get them out. Okay. I'll be happy to do that. Yeah, great resume, says Garrett. Well, thank you so much for that. Chris has been busy. I have been busy. That's the abbreviated form. My CV, the CV of all the jobs I've had with the key details, not everything I did, the accomplishments, the education, the foreign experience, the public appearances, the speeches, all 17 pages. 17 pages on my CV. Teresa, I missed you. Apologies. I did not see you in there, Teresa. And Wild Bear Prepper, good hello to you. Hey, folks, the MK Party is giving the ANC and now the EFF fits in South Africa. Of course, I previously mentioned that this new party, the ANC, is desperately trying to have them removed from the voting rolls on May 29th, claiming that they didn't follow the process legitimately and they're not a legitimate political party. They're desperate to get Jacob Zuma's new Mkhonto weSizwe party off the ballot because it's a serious threat, the first serious threat to the ANC in a long time from a breakaway portion of the ANC itself. COPE was not a major threat, even though it picked up about 8% of the vote back in its first election. It's dwindled to nothing since then. Terry Lakota is a non-factor in South African politics, despite his efforts. Thabo Mbeki is largely a non-factor in South African politics, only occasionally listened to as an elder statesman. And then we've got, of course, the EFF, which broke away, which has never achieved more than about 12% of the election vote in the elections, despite being around for a long time, despite being funded by unknown donors who apparently are not disclosing their donations to the EFF. It's still not rising. So this is a real threat. And what I mean by real threat, in 2 by-elections, those are when a member of a council is dead, dies, is removed for criminal activity, or leaves a council, they have to hold an election, a by-election. Here in America, normally what you do is someone is appointed to the term in most states and they finish out the term, or they have a special election within 3 months or 6 months. In South Africa, you have what's called a by-election. It means it's by because it's not during the normal election time. And so what happens is they've had 2 by-elections in KwaZulu-Natal province. In the first one, this new party got 21% of the vote. In the second election, they got 28% of the vote. And I think they were the largest or second largest party in that by-election. And now they have performed quite well in a race in Mpumalanga, a completely different province, which is a traditional stronghold of the African National Congress, what used to be the Northern Transvaal. The ANC is in trouble, and they know it. And they will do anything they can to eliminate the opposition because they're just that evil. So instead of offering ideas and solutions and apologies for their failure and their racism, their bigotry, their failed policies, the ANC makes more empty promises without any plan behind it, simply promising things, and goes after its opposition. And that is a sign of a party, a party in decline. Absolutely a party in decline. And that is what the ANC is. It is a pale shadow of what it was in 1994. It's a pale shadow of what it was in 2008. It's very sad. All right, so let's get to the news. All right, there's Teresa. Now she's put a tiger up. What's with the tiger? The eye of the tiger? But Chris, this time the ANC will do it right. Yeah, of course. They're like the Democrats. This time we'll get it right. We apologize for the 40% of your wealth that disappeared the past 4 years under Joe Biden's regime. It wasn't our fault. Joe's the one who caused inflation, with his war on energy and his failed macroeconomic policies and global chaos stirred by his failed foreign policy in Myanmar, his failed foreign policy in Afghanistan, his failed foreign policy in Ukraine, and the list goes on and on and on and on. In Korea, it just goes on and on. In China, yeah, the big guy getting his VIG. Anyway, as I said, Mkonto Sizwe party is giving the ANC fits. Whoa, that won't give the ANC fits. Well, I hope it gives the ANC fits, but that's not what's supposed to do it. This is supposed to do it. MK party outperforms EFF and IFP in debut Mpumalanga by-election. Former President Jacob Zuma's new MK party is proving to be a serious contender in by-elections ahead of the general elections. They mounted a formidable challenge in the local polls yesterday in Mpumalanga. Wow. In its debut by-election in Mpumalanga, former President Jacob Zuma's party managed to clinch the second position, outperforming both the IFP and the EFF. Wow. But it's not those parties that they're scaring, it's the ANC. Now, it was a small ward with only 2,558 registered voters, but the ANC retained the ward with 1,086 or 50% of the votes, while the MK got 598 or 28%. EFF got just 194 votes. IFP got only 27. The Singukukyana Kweze Christian Party got 5 votes, and the Truth and Solidarity Movement recorded 0 votes, meaning even its own candidate didn't vote for it. How do you register a party and then not vote for your party? Okay, look, I have this prediction on the April 23rd Pennsylvania primary. I guarantee you that as a candidate in this election, I will get at least 1 vote. I'll vote for myself. I'm just telling you that right now. I actually also guarantee I'll get more votes than Asa Hutchinson got in the Iowa caucus. You want to bet? I will get more votes than Asa Hutchinson got in the Iowa caucuses. You check out what he got in the Iowa caucus and all the money he wasted there and people's time. I will get more votes than Asa Hutchinson did. Now, I don't know if I'll win. I certainly want to win. I certainly feel I should win. I can win. But whether I win, lose, or draw, I'll get more votes than Asa Hutchinson did in Iowa, and I'll get more votes than this party did. Not even their own party members voted for them. I'm sorry. I just can't help myself. It's too funny. It's too funny. Wow. Now, you might say, but the ANC got 51%. Yeah, the ANC got 51% in a district they normally get 85% in. So a big impact on them. They usually get 75 to 85% there. They got 50% and barely held on. The MK party, which didn't even exist in October of 2023, got 28%. Now, the MK party has no manifesto. The MK party has no party structure. They have no officers that we're aware of. They have no headquarters. They're not really a party. It's just a fan club, fanboys for Jacob Zuma. But it doesn't matter. If they're on the ballot, then people vote for the fanboy. And that's what's going to happen. And that will cause all kinds of chaos after the election. Zuma has 10 million Zulus following in an instant. Well, I don't know about 10 million. There are 13 million Zulus, and he'll probably get, millions of them to follow him. Absolutely. Yep. There you go. So that's the story on the MK. I think someone was asking me, Martin Theon was asking us to tell a bit more about it. So Martin, they don't have anything, brother. Nothing. They barely exist as a political party, and Jacob Zuma endorsed them. He claimed he's not leaving the ANC, but he's running the standard for the MK party and criticizing the ANC. So how do you remain a member of a political party when you're obviously attached to another one? It's a strange situation. Hey, at this unusual and not announced broadcast hour, we have 44 people currently here. Thank you to everybody around the world who's watching in this hour. Appreciate it. Well, the leader of the United Democratic Movement, a friend of the program who we've had on several times, Major General Bantu Holomisa, has sent a letter to President Ramaphosa complaining that Pravin Gordhan has something to hide. What did I say yesterday? Is the UDM leader watching this program? I don't know. He's been a bit under the weather. I asked him to come on the program, but he wasn't feeling well. But he did get a letter out to the presidency about yesterday's events with Pravin Gordhan holding an in-camera closed session on South African Airways instead of one available to the public. Minister has something to hide, says Holomisa on Gordhan's dramatic meeting with members of parliament on the SA deal. Remember, they forced to sign a non-disclosure statement. What kind of lunacy is that? UDM leader Bantu Holomisa wants President Ramaphosa to take action against Pravin Gordhan after his dramatic meeting with Parliament's Public Enterprises Committee. Gordhan appeared before the committee on Wednesday to present documents relating to the 51% sale of SAA to Takatso Consortium as a preferred strategic partner for virtually nothing. The minister requested the meeting be held in camera without the presence of the media. In a letter to Ramaphosa, Holomisa accused Gordhan of having something to hide in the deal after requesting committee members sign non-disclosure agreement before documents were presented. Minister Gordhan continues to play delaying tactics in the entire matter. What is, however, most shocking is that the minister in essence, wants to muzzle parliamentary committee. Why have a meeting with the minister in camera and worse still, have to parliamentary committee sign non-disclosure agreement? And he said that Holomisa asked Ron Post to fire him, claiming that he made a mess of the SAA deal. Mr. President, Minister Gordhan has made a mess of the SAA sale, but his latest debacle with the Committee of Public Enterprises shows the minister has something to hide and is wanting to bring Parliament into hiding his dirty deeds. We therefore call on you to remove Minister Gordhan from office with immediate effect. Now, the shady deal started back in June of 2021, and Takatsu got 51%, and they're expected to invest 3 billion rand over 3 years. It's been 3 years, and there haven't been 3 billion rand invested in South African Airways. So what's going on here? Badju Holomisa is correct to call out Prav Gordhan. Julius Malema's lawyer. Oh, Juju knows he's in trouble on this one. The arrogant asshat known as Julius Malema, who never apologized for anything, particularly his racial hatred vitriol, which I don't really think the guy's a racist. I think he's an opportunist. But Julius Malema is apologizing to a judge. Can you imagine that? Malema's lawyer, now he doesn't do it himself because he's a coward, but he has his lawyer do it. His lawyer brings the peace offering to apologize for hate speech trial tension. EFF leader Juju Malema's lawyer brought a peace offering to the Equality Court judge hearing Malema's hate speech matter. He apologized for the atmosphere he created when he said the Western Cape High Court judge Mark Scher was berating him. The matter continued with University of Johannesburg professor Stephen Friedman expected to testify on why he does not regard Malema's remarks on the Brackenfell High School incident as hate speech. Really? He called for the murder of a white South African because he's white. He called for the murder of white South African. He told his followers to go out and get him and make him disappear and kill him. Just before he commenced, his lawyer said, I would like to let this court know I wish to apologize for my part in what happened yesterday. Yep. So the lawyer's apologizing, not Juju. So it's not Juju apologizing, it's his lawyer. So again, I stand corrected. Malema did not apologize. He did not apologize. It was his lawyer who apologized. My goodness. The lawyer should have been sanctioned for his conduct in court. Yep. Anyway, so not Malema. He didn't apologize. That's not in his vocabulary. Jolt to reality. Well, that's what Al Jazeera says about the Gaza situation, how it's affecting South African politics. This is an anti-Democratic Alliance story, so let me warn you ahead of time if you're a pro-DA supporter. It doesn't come out very well in this, well, I'm trying to think of the right words to call this Al Jazeera propaganda story. Ahead of South Africa's elections, the position of major parties on Gaza is proving to be a deciding factor for many voters. And they go on and say that since Ramaphosa became president, domestic issues like corruption within the government, power cuts, and a wobbling economy have been hotly debated. But Israel's war in Gaza, correction, Al Jazeera, it is not Israel's war in Gaza. It is Hamas's terror war on Israel. Israel is defending itself in responding to a terrorist assault in a violation of Israel's sovereignty by Hamas. Get the facts correct. In faraway Gaza, it's become a key election issue in recent months. The topic of Palestine has been a major point of division in South African politics as the white government stood firmly with Israel while the anti-apartheid movement saw Palestinian resistance aligned with its own. But Israel's continuing war in Gaza, no, it's Hamas's war. They refuse to surrender. If Hamas surrendered, the war would be over. Yep. Has got the parties on edge, yes. So on October 8th, Emma Powell, the DA shadow minister for international relations, released a statement condemning Hamas's unprovoked attack on Israel. The DA condemns this violence. A month later, as the number of deaths in Gaza rose, the party shifted to a more centrist position. But the EFF has been calling for an end to genocide, which of course is false, but that gets them votes. So, realignment of the electorate. Here we go. Listen to this story. I want to find this. Luane Pretorius, a 46-year-old beauty industry worker, says that as a gay Afrikaner man, the ANC gave him more rights than any country in the world. But his loyalty shifted to the DA when Ramaphosa's predecessor, Jacob Zuma, took power in 2009. The ANC gave you more rights as a gay man. Mr. Pretorius, you're not a very bright individual. The ANC didn't give you jack squat. The ANC was one of many parties that negotiated and drafted a constitution which enshrined gay rights, specifically giving privilege to gays beyond what other folks got in its constitution in 1996. The ANC didn't give you anything. They participated in that process. And you supported them because of that? That was done despite 90% of members who were in the ANC opposing homosexuality. and finding it to be a sin. You sided with people who overwhelmingly hate gays because you're too stupid to know that they hate gays. And now he says his stance has changed drastically due to current events. Now, this just shows you how stupid Mr. Pretorius is. Now, can I say that? Not apparently in Zimbabwe. I can't call him stupid because it would be misandry. By being so fervent and taking a stance against apartheid, Israel, it really says something about the ANC. But the DA, especially after apartheid, there is no way for a party to justify supporting another country committing an ethnic cleansing while simulating an apartheid state similar to what we saw in South Africa. Well, first off, Mr. Pretorius, you are a very poorly informed individual. Apartheid was separate development, which was followed by racial laws, and those things disappeared in 1992. Israel has no such laws. Gaza is not part of Israel. The Israelis abandoned Gaza in 2005 to the Palestinian Authority, who've run it like a prison since then. The Israelis provide virtually all the electricity to Gaza, whether it's paid for or not, and they provide hundreds of thousands of jobs for Palestinians in Israel. So there is no apartheid. In Israel, members of the Knesset are Arabs and Muslims. Members of the Israeli Defense Forces are Arabs and Muslims and Christians and Jews. Members of the bar are Arabs and Muslims. Israeli citizens carrying Israeli passports are Muslims, Christians, and Jews. There is no apartheid in Israel. That is a lie. That is a lie. And you're not a very bright individual. So if you're leaving the DA because the ANC is supporting Hamas, well, that just says a lot about you, sir. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of activism in Cape Town, largely in the colored community and the Muslim portion of that community, but is likely the portion of voters already voting for ANC. For Muslim voters who are highly motivated by the party's approach to Palestine, those who vote for the DA will be irritated and revolted, but not enough to move them to the ANC. If they move away from the DA, it will be the smaller parties. True. People are claiming there'll be a shift away from the DA as a result of its support for Israel and its refusal to speak about the genocide in Gaza. Well, Naim Janeh, there is no genocide in Gaza. That is a lie. That is a lie. There is a conflict started by Hamas that is a result of their terror actions and their brutality, which you refuse to acknowledge or recognize or condemn them for. So let's just get the facts straight. The second Rudaport woman who was set alight dies in hospital. Mariska Davids, one of the women who was doused with petrol and set alight in Florida in Rudaport, has died in hospital. There she is. A family member confirmed to News 24 on Wednesday morning that Davids died at 11:05 p.m. Tuesday. She died in the operating table at the Chris Hani Hospital. Her mother, Mandy Davids, is devastated and not ready to speak. Her friend, Zakia Rayman, died in the same hospital on 18th of February. The man believed to be responsible for the cruel act, Mark Brian Harvey, allegedly doused the women with petrol and set them alight at their apartment in Florida on February 11th. Neighbors who rushed to the woman's aid used wet pillows to smother the flames that covered them from head to toe. He will appear in court on Wednesday. He faces charges of murder, attempted murder, and arson. So these women were set on fire on the 11th of February by this sick individual, and she died on the 28th. 17 days of agonizing existence, being scarred and dying. Unbelievable. Well, a shop owner fatally shoots an armed robber while another one gets away. An unidentified man was shot dead while allegedly trying to rob a grocery store in Violet Bank, Bushbuck Ridge, yesterday. Spokesman for the police, Captain Magnosena Nkosi, said that two men allegedly entered a foreign-owned grocery store where they bought cigarettes and sweets from the cashier. At that moment, the store owner, who is also the cashier's brother, allegedly emerged from the back room of the shop while the two would-be robbers were still inside the store. When he appeared, one of the alleged robbers drew a firearm. Why is he an alleged robber? You have an eyewitness testimony that the person, you don't have to need a conviction to make the claim that he's a robber. Emerged from the back room of the shop while the two would-be robbers were still inside the store. When he appeared, one of the robbers drew a firearm and pointed it at the store owner. The store owner apparently attempted to escape, but the suspect fired several shots. So are they alleged shots? The alleged gunshots towards the owner, who, after realizing he'd been cornered, drew his own firearm, licensed firearm, and returned fire. There you go. There you go. During the shootout, the unarmed robber fled the scene, leaving the injured accomplice. Police and medical personnel were summoned, and the suspect was declared dead on the scene. A 9mm pistol with filed-off serial numbers was found next to the deceased. Members of South African Police Service at Bushbuckridge have opened cases of attempted murder, attempted robbery, and possession of unlicensed firearm, and an inquest docket. Well, they did that against the robbers, of course, not against the shop owner, thank goodness, who had a firearm and is alive today because he had a firearm. You see what happens when responsible adults are armed. They stop crime, and a criminal no longer exists. The world's probably a better place. In unholy marriage, the African National Congress's Youth League calls for the ANC to remove the Ekurhuleni mayor. Now, Ekurhuleni had a Democratic Alliance mayor who was capable, and the city was on the road to recovery. But of course, the ANC aligned itself with other parties to unseat the Ekurhuleni DA mayor, and now the city is in the crapper again. Yep, ANC Youth League has called on the party to support a motion of no confidence in Ekurhuleni Mayor Sivuye Ngudwana. The youth wing of the party said that it could not continue witnessing the unholy marriage the ANC has entangled itself with the EFF. Action SA submitted the motion of no confidence on the 12th of February. Some of Action SA's complaints that are under his leadership, the city's finances had deteriorated, service delivery had ground to a halt, and a council resolution on hijacked buildings had not been implemented. All of these failures have occurred in a matter of weeks and months after they ousted the DA mayor. The stupidity of South African municipal councils. This is why parliamentary systems do not work at the local level. You have no stability. You vote in an election, and those are your representatives until the next election, unless they die or surrender or quit or something like that. Wow. I haven't covered this story because it's a tragic story, and I've been hoping for a positive outcome for a week now, but it appears we're not going to get one. Viewers have been asking me to discuss this topic, this adorable little girl who has disappeared, and unfortunately, we don't know what's happened to her. Fears have yet to be realized, thankfully, but hopefully this child can be found. 8 days later, Joselyn Smith is still missing. The mother's boyfriend speaks out. 8 days into the disappearance of 6-year-old Joselyn Smith, there's still no solid leads. She's from Diazville in Saldanha along the west coast, was last seen on Monday, February 19th at about 5 p.m. She was a first grader at the Diazville Primary School. Police confirmed a missing persons report was opened on February 20th. Joselyn Rachel Smith, last seen Monday in Saldanha. She may be in a blue t-shirt, has a birthmark on her right arm. Call Crime Stop. Have you seen this child? Preliminary information reveals that Jocelyn was left at home on Monday with the mother's boyfriend to look after her as she was not feeling well. Later in the afternoon, when the mother returned, her daughter was not home. So why hasn't the boyfriend been a center of the investigation? Jocelyn's mother, Kelly Smith, told police that she asked about the whereabouts of the child but could not find her. She later got hold of her boyfriend, Jacqueline Apollos, who was supposed to look after the child, but he could not account for her whereabouts. At the time of her disappearance, she was wearing those clothing. Wow. She told me she was going to play with a friend. That's the last time I saw her. I'm really, really honest, he said. Wow. You don't let a 6-year-old run off and play with a friend. K-9 units, divers, and air teams have been deployed in search for the missing girl. Prayer chains have started all on social media platforms, and a weekend vigil was held for a safe return in Elsie's River. You do not allow your 6-year-old child to run off unsupervised. What kind of person allows that? That's irresponsible behavior. 800 officers have left the Western Cape police ranks in just 11 months, according to the provincial commissioner. During a briefing held by Premier Alan Winde and Police Oversight Community Safety MEC Regan Allen on Thursday, Western Cape Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Tembisile Pakatile revealed that the province's new recruits would be used to fill the vacancies created by 800 officers who had left. The province received around 2,000 new recruits at the end of last year, but they lost 800 who've left through retirement or other reasons. Zimbabwe has abolished the death penalty, the colonial-era death penalty. Of course, the crocodile, the current illegitimate president of Zimbabwe, who abdicated his office and left, but was returned and restored to office in an unconstitutional military coup led by Constantine Chiwenga, who not coincidentally is now his deputy vice president. But he has helped stop this, calling for the end of the death penalty because he himself once was sentenced to death. Imagine had the Rhodesian authorities actually carried out that death sentence. Would Zimbabwe be a better place today? Mozambique jihadist attacks displaced thousands in northern province of Cabo Delgado. Mozambique's government confirmed Tuesday this week that tens of thousands have been driven from their homes by a wave of jihadist attacks in the rest of North. Cabinet spokesperson said 67,321 people had fled the armed attacks in recent weeks in Cabo Delgado province. Wow. So the SADC mission, which has been deployed there for some time since July of 2021, doesn't seem to be having the effect that it's supposed to have now. So they're supposed to leave this summer. What's going to happen then in Cabo Delgado? Sudanese Rapid Support Force brings down the telecom networks across Sudan. Oh, my goodness. Communications were down for most Sudanese on Monday, and what two telecom sector sources in the Army-aligned state news agency said was a deliberate move by the Rapid Support Forces who are battling military. For their part, the RSF did not comment, while an RSF source said the paramilitary had nothing to do with the outages. Well, whoever did, there was no cell phone service in most of Sudan. Chad's opposition leader is killed when the army assaulted his party headquarters. A leading opponent of Chad's ruling military junta, Yaya Dilo Djerou, has been killed in an army assault on his party headquarters. He died Wednesday when he retreated to his party headquarters. He didn't want to surrender, and they claim he fired on law enforcement. The prosecutor general earlier spoke of dead, including Yaya Dilo, without detailing circumstances. He led the opposition Socialist Party Without Borders. He was accused of having led an attack against the offices of the Internal Security Agency overnight on Tuesday and Wednesday. It came after the arrest of a member of his party accused of an assassination attempt against the president of the Supreme Court. He said he wasn't present. He condemned an attempted attack against the Supreme Court as staged. Yep, there will be a presidential election on May 6th in Chad. Good luck there. Ghanaian authorities, Ghanaian parliament actually has passed an anti-homosexuality law. Yep. It has to be signed by the president before it becomes law, but this story by David McKenzie. Wow, a CNN report with just one author. That's exciting. Ghana's parliament yesterday unanimously passed a controversial anti-homosexuality bill that has drawn international condemnation. After 3 long years, we finally passed the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Act, said Sam George, one of the sponsors of the bill. The bill, which was introduced in the parliament in 2021, not only criminalizes LGBTQ relationships, but also those who support LGBTQ rights. Wow. A recent CNN investigation uncovered alleged links between a U.S. nonprofit and the drafting of the homophobic laws. The group denied these links. Wow. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk called the parliament's passing of the bill profoundly disturbing and urged the government not to sign it into law. Well, MTN, the South African mobile phone carrier, is also operating in other countries, including Ghana. MTN Ghana blocks 5 million users from their SIM cards. Wow. The MTN Ghana subsidiary was forced to block more than 5 million subscribers from their network as the country's communications authority finalized the process to register all SIM cards. It resulted in a 6.3% reduction in the company's cell phone users to 26.8 million subscribers. The registration drive started back in October 2021 and was completed in May of last year, and it cost them millions of subscribers, over 5 million. Wow. Because people don't want to register their SIM cards with government authorities because government authorities will use it to persecute them. Don't blame them. The International Criminal Court issues an interesting verdict, which has no teeth to it whatsoever. The International Criminal Court orders a record 1 billion rand compensation for victims in Uganda. Nearly 50,000 victims, Ugandan militia commander Dominic Ongwen, who was captured while I was in Uganda, should get a total of over £52 million in compensation. ICC judges ruled Wednesday. Now, judges said Ongwen, a former child soldier who rose to the ranks to become one of the top commanders in the notorious Lord's Resistance Army, did not have the resource to pay the compensation. Instead, they asked her tribunal's own trust fund for victims to help cover the cost. So, the tribunal's trust fund, which is funded by European and U.S., well, not U.S., we don't fund the ICC, by European countries. So European taxpayers are going to compensate the victims of African genocidal conduct by Africans. Black Africans murdering black Africans, and Europeans out of guilt will compensate those people for the horrors inflicted upon black Africans by black Africans. Nothing to do with colonialism, nothing to do with neocolonialism, nothing to do with the British being in Uganda, nothing to do with anything except the stupidity of the International Criminal Court. No, that's utter nonsense. It should be getting support from the Lord's Resistance Army. That's where it should come from. Well, global stocks of cholera jabs or oral cholera pills are gone. Stockpile runs empty as 16 countries report outbreaks. This from Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders. More vaccine manufacturers must urgently help boost global supply. Well, how about people stop drinking poo water? Here's a little suggestion. Stop drinking poo water. Wash your hands with clean water and soap, and clean your utensils and dishes before you eat or cook. Stop drinking, eating poo water, and then you won't have cholera. That's an idea. The International Medical Humanitarian Organization, Doctors Without Borders, they describe themselves on their own website. That's funny. Extremely concerned about a recent announcement the global cholera vaccine stockpile has been exhausted as a high number of countries are reporting outbreaks. Well, yeah, especially in southern Africa. Yeah, we've seen lots of it going on. Yep. Médecins Sans Frontières telling us the blatantly obvious here. That's just stupid. Well, which African countries consume the most beer? Would you like to know? Some people would like to know. Well, Business Insider Africa is devoting stories like this to our attention. So, beer is one of the oldest and most widely consumed alcoholic beverages in the world. It is the third most enjoyed drink globally, following water and tea. Wow. So, when it comes to beer, here it is. Namibia is the largest consumer of beer in Africa. No doubt a heritage of the German colonial era. They consume 95.5 liters per capita per year, making them the sixth largest consumer of beer on the planet and number one in Africa, followed by Gabon. And of course, here comes South Africa at 60.1 liters of beer consumed per capita each year, 28th on the global scale. Hey, you know what? At least South Africa is doing well in something, drinking lots of beer. Ranked third in Africa, 28th in the world. India and South Africa block a major confusing investment deal at the World Trade Organization, which China backs. And I'm just puzzled by it because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. India and South Africa filed a formal objection against an investment agreement at the World Trade Organization meeting in Dubai, or Abu Dhabi, blocking its adoption, a move that observers say could block hundreds of billions of dollars in investment. The deal, agreed to by 125 countries, or 3/4 of the WTO's members, aims to simplify red tape, improve investment environment, and encourage foreign direct investment. But not a single news story details what exactly this agreement is. I looked, I searched, I couldn't find anything, and I didn't have time to go look up the WTO. So I think that's a misleading story that's being told to us. Well, Jonathan Dante, the French rugby player, has gotten a 5-week ban and will miss the rest of the Six Nations competition. Jonathan Dante will miss the rest of the Six Nations. France midfielder Jonathan Dante will miss the remainder of his country's troubled Guinness Six Nations following his suspension for last Sunday's red card in a draw with Italy. The La Rochelle center was initially issued a yellow card in Lille, but his foul play was upgraded to red during the interval and he didn't return. And his absence hurt France, who wound up in a tie. He'll now miss France's remaining 2 matches versus Wales and England, as well as 3 La Rochelle games. However, his successful completion of a tackle school would scratch the last game from that ban and free him to face the Stormers in the Champions Cup on April 6th. The Six Nations statement read, the Independent Disciplinary Committee, consisting of Jennifer Donovan, the chair from Ireland, Leon Lloyd, England, and Stéphane Terblanche from South Africa, heard the case and considered all the available evidence and submissions from the player and his representatives. The player admitted that he committed an act of foul play and that he'd been worthy of a red card. So Dante admitted by his own statement that he felt it was a red card as well. The disciplinary committee accepted the player had acted recklessly and had not maliciously or with intent. The committee also highlighted the player had accepted guilt at the earliest opportunity and shown immediate remorse on the field of play. So on that basis, the mid-range penalty is 6 weeks. They decided on 4 weeks, but then they bumped it back up because he has a troubled history of ill discipline. So Jonathan Dante is out for the rest of the Six Nations, and that's going to hurt. They've already lost Antoine Dupont, who's busy playing the sevens, and the French side is in a lot of trouble, including people calling for the head of Fabien Galtier, their successful coach. Hamas is losing every battle in Gaza, but like the Viet Cong, it thinks it could win the war. This Wall Street Journal article says senior members of Hamas's leadership in exile in Doha, living it up, fat on the hog, obese pigs living in Doha on the wealth donated to them by corrupt governments around the world, including Iran, so that Palestinians could die in Hamas's war on Israel. Earlier this month, amid concerns that its fighters were getting mauled by an Israeli offensive in Gaza, enemy troops were killing dozens of militants each day as they methodically overran Hamas strongholds. Then a courier arrived with a message from Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas in Gaza, saying, Don't worry, we have the Israelis right where we want them. Hamas's fighters, the Al-Qassam brigades, were doing fine, the upbeat message said. The militants were ready for Israel's expected assault on Rafah. High civilian casualties would add to the worldwide pressure on Israel to stop the war, was Sinwar's message. So he is willing to accept high civilian casualties rather than end the war. There you have the truth right there, revealed what Hamas is all about. It's about the death of Palestinians in furtherance of their bizarre political goals, which is the elimination of the Jewish state. The luxury route to the United States for African migrants, folks. Yeah, check this out. So Colombia's main airport has become a hub for criminal alien invaders heading to the U.S. in greater numbers. Some have been stranded for weeks or forced to be turned back. They should all be turned back. What are you doing in Colombia? Nearly 3,000 miles inside Colombia's main international airport from the U.S. border, hundreds of African migrants, criminal alien invaders, have been pouring in every day, paying traffickers $10,000 for flight packages they hope will reach them, the United States. Yeah. The criminal alien invaders came mainly from West Africa, such as Guinea, Mauritania, Senegal, and Sierra Leone, but some come as far as Somalia. And here they are in Colombia, trying to slip illegally into the United States. Yeah, okay. Cuba begging for food from the UN. Ah, the socialist paradise, the friend of the ANC, the place that provided doctors during the Rona pandemic. Yeah, what did they do? They didn't do anything. They just collected a bunch of money from corrupt ANC. Cuba asked the UN for help as food shortages worsen. My goodness. Basic foodstuffs not in existence in the socialist paradise of Cuba. They've asked the UN's food program for help as food shortages as a communist-run island situation worsens. They said they have no milk powder, a shortage of milk, fuel, and medicines is running low. Wow. Cuban government continues to blame the ongoing U.S. sanctions for the dire state of its economy, but critics say government mismanagement is behind the current economic crisis, the worst in 3 decades. The United States sanctioning Cuba has nothing to do with the food crisis there. They were able to grow their food before. Why can't they do it now? With or without U.S. support, the global elites in the European Union will ensure that Russia loses. Ursula von der Leyen, we will do it. European Union cannot afford to let Russia win the war in Ukraine, regardless of what happens in the United States after the presidential elections. Why is that? They didn't take the same stance when Georgia was under assault or Estonia was under assault. Estonia is a NATO member. It wasn't at the time, but it is now. The top European official, Ursula von der Leyen, says that they need new defense industry strategy with locally made arms at its heart. I'm sorry. Aren't your fighters, Rafale fighters, European produced? Aren't your Leopard tanks European produced? Aren't your munitions from IG Metall and others European produced? What is she talking about? Europe has an indigenous arms manufacturing industry. It just can't compete with the U.S. and Chinese. Northern Ireland declares part of an amnesty law to be in breach of human rights. Victims, families, human rights organizations, and all major political parties in Northern Ireland, both British and Unionist Irish nationalists, oppose the law. The offering by Britain of conditional amnesty to ex-soldiers and militants involved in Northern Ireland's decades of violence is in breach of the European Convention on Human Rights, a little-known covenant signed in 1951, including the United Kingdom, so they fall under its jurisdiction. France has expelled for his comments a extremist, radical Tunisian Imam, Majoub Majoubi, over comments about the flag. They kicked him out of the country. He said that a tricolor flag is satanic and has no value with Allah. So within 12 hours, he had been kicked out of the country under new draconian immigration laws. The French are, like the South Africans, afraid of free speech, and like 1/3 of Americans, afraid of free speech. Look, he didn't call for violence or anything. He just said that a 3-color flag is satanic, and they kicked him out of the country. An American Airlines flight en route is turned back 250 miles after a cracked windscreen. Wow. Flight was took off a Boeing 777 from JFK at 7:28. Less than 45 minutes later, an alert 2 emergency was declared. Flight 94 took off from New York City, and then they turned around. Wow. An alert 2 indicates a flight is experiencing major difficulties or the difficult crash landing may be expected. My goodness. They managed to land at 10:14 successfully at Boston's Logan Airport. Man, that's terrifying. What's going on there? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we keep hearing the horror about microplastics. You know what? Microplastics, according to scientists, you can boil them away. 90% of microplastics, those tiny things you can't see that can destroy your health, can be boiled away by boiling your water. That's exciting news. That's good to hear. Yep. Canada wants to introduce visas to stop Mexican criminal alien invaders from invading Canada. Oh, but it's such a friendly immigrant country. Canada have been calling for visas to be reinstated. The federal government is reimposing some visa requirements on Mexican nationals visiting Canada. The new rules take effect on Thursday, 11:30 p.m. Quebec Premier Francois Legault has been calling for the federal government to do more to slow the influx of fake asylum seekers into his province. And they're going to bring back the visa requirement for Mexicans. They can no longer simply go to Canada. Well, Donald Trump is disqualified from the Illinois primary ballot by a rogue, out-of-control, unconstitutional state. Once again, these officials must be sanctioned, punished, and criminally charged for their actions when this is all resolved. Illinois state judge Wednesday barred Donald Trump from appearing on Illinois Republican presidential primary ballot because of his role in the insurrection of the Capitol on January 6th. There was no insurrection, and he had no role, and this is illegitimate. Mitch McConnell, the fossil in charge of the Republican Party as minority leader, will step down from his role in the Senate in November after a record run in the job. Mitch McConnell, the fossil, is disappearing. You know, it's been a long time in coming. It is, ladies and gentlemen, long overdue. Are we live? What's going on here? Oh, I am live. Double checking. YouTube likes to play silly games, and I had to make sure we're actually live. So I actually need to change one thing here real quick, folks, to let you know, those who want to hang around, you'll be redirected to my interview with Western Cape Referendum Party's Phil Craig coming up in less than 10 minutes. Anyway, back to the news. 74 people currently here, but just 54 likes. What's up with that, man? Come on, help a brother out. Come on. Mitch McConnell's going to step down. Now, listen to this. Hundreds of West African asylum seekers, and this is where I'm going to blow this story out of the water because it's just bogus. Hundreds of West African asylum seekers have come to Philly since September. They haven't found a lot of support. Well, they don't get any support because they're criminal alien invaders. They're not asylum seekers. Kasim Kone of Liberia speaks with the Inquirer reporter outside Southwest Philadelphia on February 23rd. Why is Kasim Kone seeking asylum in America? This is bogus fraud. I lived in Liberia. There's no reason to seek asylum here. There's no political persecution of Liberians by its government. It's a free democracy. They just had a vote and changed governments. No group is being hunted down or persecuted by the government in Liberia. No religious group is being hunted by anyone else. This is a fraud. Kick him out of the country. He is not entitled to asylum. Liberia does not border America in any way whatsoever, and he is a fraud, a total fraud. Let me continue this story. The Philadelphia Inquirer is seeking sympathy from low-information voters who don't know any better. The call started in September. Week after week, there are reports of new migrants arriving in Philadelphia. Start off slow with just a few people arriving each week before quickly growing to dozens. They were from Mauritania, another country where no reason for asylum, Guinea, Liberia, and other West African countries. But the American life they were pursuing so far has turned out to be more bleak than they had dreamed. So, roughly 1,000 fake asylum seekers from West African countries have come to Philadelphia since the fall. Most of them settled in the Southwest Philly's large African immigrant communities. But the influx has been largely ignored or unnoticed by Philadelphians. It's been a really, really challenging few months, says Medusa Samora, president of the Liberian Mandingo Association of Pennsylvania. We are a small nonprofit. We cannot take on big projects. Well, the sudden influx of asylum seekers, the majority of whom are men, has left community organizers perplexed. No, not perplexed. They're frauds. Don't be perplexed. Kasim Amu Kone, for example, worked at the same gas station as an accused criminal and risked being murdered if he wouldn't provide an alibi for the man. He left his home country in Liberia in December, traveled to Latin America to cross the southern border in the U.S., and eventually made it to Philadelphia where his uncle lives. Mori Saranka Konde left his home in Guinea in December following an influx of arrests of members of the political party Rassemblement du Peuple Guinéen, or Rally of the Guinean People, which is a ruling party of Guinea for 2 decades until they were overthrown in a coup. While each person's story is different, some organizers point to common themes of government corruption, ethnic and gender-based discrimination, and lack of opportunity of countries as an explanation for the influx. Dreams to disillusion. Wow. So their dreams are coming here and profiting from our society, bringing their broken ideas instead of living in a country where they're not oppressed. That is not asylum. That is garbage. Well, New York City's plan to ease gridlock and pump billions into mass transit, well, they're going to charge you $15 toll to enter Manhattan. More corrupt government stealing from citizens. Senator Tom Cotton asked the obvious question, which I asked yesterday, folks. Senator Tom Cotton, let me just check on something very quickly here. Hang on a second. Yeah, Senator Tom Cotton asked the blatantly obvious question, which I asked when we found out about this Air Force active duty member, self-immolation, and a member of an anarchist group before he joined the Air Force. What kind of checks are they doing? And we hear that extremists extremists. Of course, it's always white supremacy and Nazis that they're worried about. It's almost non-existent. But Senator Cotton asked Pentagon why airman who self-immolated was allowed to serve. He said Aaron Bushnell's actions showed he obviously harbored extreme anti-American. White man, 25, a member of the U.S. Air Force, self-immolated in a protest against Israeli military operations. Before setting himself afire, he said he could no longer be complicit in genocide. In a press release, Mr. Cotton Mr. Bushnell's actions showed that he obviously harbored extreme anti-American views. He asked the duty for information about his anti-extremism training program addressed to support for Islamic terror groups like Hamas. He wanted to know whether the airmen showed any extremist leanings or concerning behavior. But it doesn't matter. He was a member of anarchist groups before he joined the Air Force, and the Air Force allowed him to join anyway. Anarchists are against government. How can that be allowed? Well, because in America, we allow hatred against white Christian males, and everyone else is protected. No equal justice under the law. U.S. lawmakers have reached an agreement to keep the bankrupt U.S. government continue floating. Here you have Mitch McConnell and Chucky the Gravekeeper Schumer, two fossils in the Senate, destroying this country, colluding to continue destroying and burying us in debt. Well, the media are just so dishonest and corrupt. Donald Trump, the Supreme Court has taken on a hearing about his immunity as president. And what do we get listed as news? Let me find this very quickly, if I can find it here very quick. If I can put it up, I'm running out of time here. I've got Phil coming up in a few minutes. So let's call this. This is what was on the Google news page this morning. Let me get this to come up. Okay, where's it at? Where the heck's it at? It's not there. I know I saved it. It's not there, folks. God bless it. I can't show it to you. Sorry. Anyway, that's messed up. Anyway, let me try this. I can't do it. Anyway, I did a screen capture of it. I can't find it for some reason. And it is supposed to be the news. And what it is all op-ed. The top story is opinion, not news. These are opinions by leftist hate wankers about why the court is hearing this case, which is just total nonsense. Let me just go ahead and get to this right now. This is the first one. Opinion. Now, it's listed as news on the Google top of the news page, but then we go to Jennifer Rubin, a renegade fake Republican who writes for the Washington Compost. What the Supreme Court told us. And then we have the Daily Beast. Joyless Reed says Justices Alito and Thomas have motive in delaying the Trump case. And then CNN, Trump uses a slow legal system to his advantage. Supreme Court is helping. Yeah. In taking up Trump's immunity claims, Supreme Court bolstered his delay strategy. All of this nonsense after the Supreme Court granted presidential immunity case, they're going to listen to it. And this is all nonsense on the part of these clowns. By the way, before I go away, folks, sad news. Richard Lewis, the comedian here in America, Jewish comedian, has passed away at the age of 76. He starred on lots of programs, of course, famously, most recently on the Curb Your Enthusiasm. Richard Lewis dead at the age of 76. Caitlin Clark has set the all-time record for women scoring in NCAA basketball, and she will soon eclipse Pistol Pete Maravich if she can get 18 points in her final game. She breaks the record set by Lynette Woodward. And now, despite all the racists making claims she's not the greatest of all time, she doesn't own the record. She owns it clearly. A Miami Herald op-ed piece bemoans black spring breakers being chased off the beach, claiming that whites were never treated that way. But then at the end of the story, the author says that's exactly what the city did of Fort Lauderdale. They chased whites off the beach back in 1980 when they misbehaved. So this nonsense needs to stop with this racist bigotry. Folks, hang around. You'll be directed in just a moment to the next broadcast, which is Phil Craig and I on the referendum party. So I'm going to end it right here. Thank you for being here, folks. We'll catch you in about 90 seconds. Stick with us. Phil Craig coming up. Hopefully, we'll see how many of the 75 viewers that are currently here will stick with us. God bless, and thank you for being here. Cheers.